Tova.
Move.
Yay. Mhm.
Okay,
Hey,
so
Tova.
Hi, sorry to be
Okay.
late. Yeah.
hi. So welcome everyone. I think what's also happened is that it's an upgraded new Zoom, so a few things are in different places than I'm used to. So anyway, okay, so hi to everyone. Today was the 5th day of ER. It was the 20th day of the Omer, which was Yesod Sheba Tiferet. So Yesod Sheba Tiferet, as I've been explaining the whole week, we're in the week of harmony and balance, and Yesod Sheba Tiferet would correspond in the body to the pelvic area, and Yesod is a balance between Netzach and Hod. So in the body, we have Yesod coming before we have the legs, Netzach and Hod. But energetically and in terms of the Sphirot, I guess the top of the pelvis, the way it is that in the tree of life we have Netzach, Hod, Yesod, but in the actual body you have the pelvis and then you have Netzach and Hod. But in any event, especially since I've been preoccupied with stance and posture and support, the feet are really give suggestion to the pelvis, and the pelvis gives suggestion to the feet. But the legs and the feet, in order for them to feed into the pelvic area and for the pelvic area to be balanced and stable, we have to have that balance between Netzach and Hod. So by now, you should all know what that means. That means a balance between effort. Effort is Netzach. Netzach translates as victory, persistence, discipline, determination. That's Netzach. Hod is the capacity to pull back, to relax in a way, to be aware of other parameters that would stop you just being blinders on, going straight ahead. It could be your own limitations. It could be some other awarenesses and consciousnesses that come into play that temper your netzach. So Hod is kind of a greater capacity to take in the bigger picture that might lead you to kind of pull back a little. So balancing the Netzach and the Hod, we get to Yesod and Yesod of Tiferet. And of course, Tiferet is balance and harmony, which is something that we aim for in everything that we're doing. We're always aiming for balance and harmony. So that was today, was Yesod of Tiferet. And then tonight, I'm not going to count it yet, but tonight, and moving into tomorrow is Malchut Sheba Tiferet. So that would be a mastery over this quality of Tiferet. Mastery, kind of having figured it out and worked it all out. So I'm not sure who to mute, but I think I maybe muted the right person because I was hearing noises. Okay, so looking into the Hayom Yom, given all these beautiful ideas, and we're in the middle of the Sphira, which is this shining and refining ourselves so that we can serve Hashem better. So I would say that one of the ways of looking at the Sphirot are how we can refine our personality traits, how we can become a better person. And that is wonderful. But another way to work on these aspects of self that are reflecting Hashem is how we can use these awarenesses of the Sphirot to better serve Hashem. So whatever it means to be refining our quality of Tiferet, that is really so that we can become more harmonious, more balanced person, so that we can then serve Hashem better. That's the point of one of the points of this whole exercise. Okay. Um, so uh, so I'm going to read the Hayom Yom, which was for today, and this is going to fit very well into our parsha. So the Alter Rebbe received the following teaching from the Tzaddik Reb Mordechai, who had heard it, I guess, directly from the Baal Shem Tov. And this is the teaching. A soul may descend to this world and live 70 or 80 years in order to do a Jew a material favor and certainly a spiritual one. I think the last time I taught this, maybe a year ago, I sang the little song that I learned when I went to my first religious event. It was a Torah kind of educational seminar in 1977. And Yossi Goldman, who was the Chabad Shaliach in Johannesburg, he taught us all a song to this for this very idea. And if you think about it, what it really means, right? So everybody wants to know, I don't know if everybody wants to know, but many of us want to know, what is the purpose of our life? Why have we come here? What are we doing here? What is our mission? So according to the Baal Shem Tov, a person's mission can be that he could be in the right place and in the right time to do one favor to another Jew. That's the right favor at the right time. That could justify his whole existence. And you could say, how can that be? Are you sure that that's what it means? So I'm going to read it to you again. That a soul, and this is from the Baal Shem Tov, a soul may descend to this world and live for 70 or 80 years. That's the lifetime of his whole life, in order to do a Jew a material favor and for sure a spiritual one. So you could live your whole life, and your whole life could be justified by doing a chesed for another person. Now, of course, we do many, many other mitzvahs, and I'm sure we've done many other favors for another person, but it's for sure underlining the value and the power and the meaning of doing an act of kindness, chesed, for another person. So I thought that was a pretty powerful idea. So, okay, so there we go. I think that's very, very powerful. So now, moving on, we're going to come into this week's Parsha, which have the two Parshiot of this week, which have a lot of powerful ideas. So I'm going to share the screen, and we want to go back to the Torah reading, and here we go. Okay, so today's Parsha reading is called, well, there's two Parshas, right? So the first Parsha is Acherei, and the second Parsha is Kedoshim. So Acherei Mois means after the death. Acherei Mois. That's V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe Acherei Mois, Shnei b'nei Aaron, of the two sons of Aaron. So what did they do? B'karvatam lifnei Hashem v'yamutu. They drew close to Hashem, and they passed away. So let's just talk about what happened to them for a brief moment, and then we'll go back into the text. So we know that when the Mishkan was being consecrated, and Aaron and Moshe erected the Mishkan and took it down and erected it and took it down for a whole week. They were erecting it and taking it down and erecting it and taking it down. And then finally they erected it. They offered sacrifices on it, and a fire came down from Shemayim and consumed their sacrifice, which means, okay, guys, now we are in business, right? A connection between above and below has been established. And in making that connection, this is also that after the sin of the golden calf, the Mishkan was created to be something that the people could reestablish that intimacy with Hashem that maybe had gotten destroyed, damaged through their involvement with the golden calf. And immediately after that, some say it was intended anyway. They were given the mitzvot of the Aaron, the Mishkan, the tabernacle anyway. But then we had all those Torah Parshiot about the Mishkan, and then it finally gets erected, and fire comes down, and it means that it's a functional communication between below and above. The people below make an offering, and Hashem responds from on high and sends down the fire, which is really reflective of him consuming and accepting that offering.
Can
In
I
the
ask a
midst,
question? I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
sure.
Okay, so my question is, yes, we know that this Mishkan was going to happen because they brought the acacia wood right with them, and it was planted with Yosef. The question is though, if the sin of the golden calf never happened, because in retrospect the Mishkan was kind of the direct result of that, and they had gone into Eretz Yisrael, do you think they would still have the Mishkan, and would they have needed the acacia wood?
So that's a very good question. And with your question, you actually have part of your answer. So it's true that they did bring the wood, and Yaakov even planted the trees in Mitzrayim so that they could bring the wood. So there's definitely opinions that they would have built it anyway, and that the instructions to build it were even given before the incident with the golden calf. And what happened afterwards is that they just continued the way they were going to. But I guess there was still a question, would Hashem accept their offerings or not because of the golden calf? That could be one thing. But there's certainly enough opinions to suggest that they would have done it anyway. But there are opinions to say that in showing their need for something tangible and concrete vis-a-vis the golden calf, it showed their need for something concrete, and thus, even though it's not chronologically written like that in the Torah, that it was given to them after the fact. But I like the idea that it was going to be done anyway, because and one of the proofs is of Yaakov bringing the wood anyway, planting it and bringing it.
Right.
Okay. So
Acacia wood.
the acacia wood, in Hebrew, shittim wood, that's acacia trees that our sages tell us that Yaakov planted them in Egypt. And when they left Egypt, they brought a bunch of that wood with them when they went into Egypt, which is interesting. They didn't have time for their matzah to rise, but they did have time to bring the shittim wood. But many things in the Mishkan are constructed out of shittim wood. And there's a lot of teachings about the shittim being wood that within the name has an indication of something that can bend and go off track. Like an Isha Sota is a woman, suspected of being a wayward woman. And then they talk about a person doesn't sin unless he gets a spirit of shtus, of craziness or wildness or insanity. And that's connected to the word shittim also, shtus and shittim. And then the wood of the shittim and the wood of the Mishkan is sort of like a correction for those wayward tendencies that could take a person to the wrong side, to the wrong track.
Wrong path. Okay.
So then we have this climactic moment when the fire comes down and consumes their offering, and everybody's very ecstatic. And in the sort of moment of ecstasy, we know that the two sons of Aaron get very motivated, and they bring into the Mishkan an offering that they weren't supposed to bring. They brought an incense offering, and they weren't married. Some people say they were intoxicated. Other people say they weren't intoxicated with wine, but they were intoxicated with a love of Hashem, an unbridled love of Hashem and they came into the Holy of Holies bringing this incense offering that they weren't instructed to bring. And what happened is that they came in and their souls left them. And you could describe what happens with different language. You could say they were punished, and because they were punished, they died. Or you could say that they had such ecstasy that their souls left their bodies and didn't come back, so they died in that way. But the language of the Torah actually uses two phrases of dying, and it says they died internally and externally. In other words, their bodies were burnt on one hand, but their souls also left and didn't, their souls left their bodies, so they had an internal death as well as an external death. In any event, where we start this parsha is after that fact, after the death of those two sons through this kind of religious zeal. That's where we picking up the parsha, and basically what it's going to start with is it's going to start with giving Aaron very strict boundaries for how service needs to be done in the temple. You, Aaron, are the head of this family that are going to be the priests for the Jewish nation. And as such, you're going to be connecting to this very powerful energy of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And in order that something like that never happens again, these are the rules that you and your family have to stick to stringently, so that there's no more unbridled expression of holiness, which is in a very dangerous zone, right? The Kedusha of the Mishkan, especially the Holy of Holies, is very powerful. And if you are going to engage with that energy, these are the rules. And so that's where we start off this parsha.
How would Aaron have trained the next person? I mean, or maybe his other sons, if only he was allowed to go in there. How would he have shown them to do the Ketores or whatever, if only he was allowed in the Holy of Holies?
Well, you could show what to do and not walk in. I mean,
Okay.
you don't have to actually walk in to say you take a handful of this, you make this
Okay.
is a mixture. Okay. So Hashem is speaking to Aaron right after, and he's telling them that that's what they have to do. They have to do it in a special way. They have to wear special clothing, and they have to come in and basically it's I'm going to stop the share. Basically, what he's told is that the only time you can come into the Mishkan, the only time, will be on Yom Kippur. That's the only time you can enter into the Holy of Holies, is going to be on Yom Kippur, and you're going to do this special service, and you're going to put on the garments of the Kohen Gadol, and you're going to take the Ketores, and you're going to do the service of the Ketores.
Which is written about on the
you're gonna-
Yom Kippur service.
which is the Yom Kippur service.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
it's very interesting because it talks about what he's going to do. He's going to bring the Ketores in. And then this week's parsha also talks about the idea of the goats, the two goats, and the idea of a scapegoat. So let's see. Let's go in. So there's what he should wear, and he should take the Ketores, and he should go in, and he should be, and it's only on Yom Kippur. And then we've got the idea of a scapegoat. So let's see where it is here. So he has to take, from verse 5, he has to take 2 he-goats as a sin offering and 1 ram as a scent offering. So the one is lechatat and the other one is an olah. And he should bring forth the bull and atone for him and his household. And now he's going to take these 2 goats and he's going to bring them before Hashem. And this is very interesting. He's going to place lots on the 2 goats. One lot is for Hashem, and the other lot is for La Azazel. So the Azazel, basically, that's Azazel. When you ask when we look at Rashi and we're asking what is Azazel, so what is Azazel? It's kind of like out into the wilderness, out into the, like out there. And it's not even clear if the goat is, what happens to the goat. He could be just sent out into the wilderness, or he's actually thrown off a cliff. But it doesn't tell us that in the verse. It just says one is going to be offered for Hashem and the other one is for Azazel. And basically, there's this ceremony where the Kohen puts his hand into some kind of a pot or something, and there are two pieces of wood, and it's like drawing a lot. And the one piece of wood is for one goat. What's going to be the fate of that goat? Is he going to be offered as a sacrifice to Hashem, or is he going to be the one sent out to Azazel? So it's
The world's first lottery.
it's a lottery. It's a lottery. It's a lottery, and the two goats are exactly the same, and one is literally, this is where we get the idea of a scapegoat, because the sins of the nation are kind of transferred onto this goat, not the one that's offered up as a sacrifice, but the one that is sort of sent out into the wilderness. He's the one that takes all the sins. And it's interesting, he's sent into the desert. And it doesn't say here that he's actually killed. It doesn't say that. And then there's also the idea that this goat, and I don't understand exactly how it works, because there's the idea that around the ankle of the goat is tied a red string. And if the sins of the Jewish people have been forgiven, then the string turns white. But if the goat is sent out into the desert, I'm not quite sure where they see that string has turned color. Okay.
A very long string.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
my gosh. I mean,
Isn't that kind of like the red string we wear for Kotel? No, that's Rachel.
Well,
That's
it's maybe
Carol.
a different red string.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a different red string. Okay. So that's one aspect of this parsha. It's talking about Aaron. It's talking about his service on Yom Kippur. It's talking about these two goats that are going. One goes as an offering to Hashem, and one goes to Azazel. And then it talks about this Ketoris that Aaron is going to take into the Mishkan, and he's going to bring atonement for all of Israel. Now, we've seen before the incredible power of the Ketoris, that there was a plague in the camp, and at some point people were dying, and I think it was Aaron, took the Ketoris and held it up, and it literally stopped the plague of death. And now on Yom Kippur, the Ketoris is the very same substance that's going to accomplish cleansing for all of the people. So it's when people take sage and they go in their rooms, and what is it called when they do the something?
Saging.
There's another saging.
What
I
is it
guess
called?
the bitterness of the herbs are kind of cleansing in a way that this the ingredients of the Ketoris are such, and we've talked about it. There's multiple different ingredients, including something very foul smelling that has to be included, which refers to someone in the community that's also a sinner. You have to include them in the community. You can't just leave them out. So you have this multitude of different herbs and spices that are part of the Ketoris that get an atonement for the people on Yom Kippur through Aaron, taking it on this pan with the burning coals. And of course, the famous teaching that I love, love, love that the Ketores goes up into a cloud of smoke. And the cloud, we always say, is Anan, right? Anan
what?
is
Anan?
Anan. This cloud, Oilam, what am I saying? Not Anan. Ashan, the smoke, not the cloud. The smoke is called Ashan. So, and we've talked about it before, and I use this as one of my favorite yoga meditations, is that the holiest person is Aaron HaKohen. On the holiest day, Yom Kippur. In the holiest place, the Mishkan. And he takes the Ketoris and it creates this Ashan, the smoke. And so that's the portal that opens up the cleaning, the cleansing, the purification, and the rectification of everyone. And that we, when we align to the place we're in, the moment we're in, the person we're in, right? Place is Olam, Shana is time, Nun is Nefesh. Then when we completely align to that reality of who we are, as we are, where we are, in this moment of when we are, then that's also like a Ashan meditation. Then we can kind of connect directly above. I'm sure you've all heard me say it because I've said it and taught it many times. The Ashan meditation. Oilam means place, Shana is time, Nefesh is soul. You align all three and then you have Ashan. So that's the first part of the Parsha of Acherei Mois. The second part of the Parsha, which is very interesting because on Yom Kippur in the morning, we read about this service that Aaron does because he did it on Yom Kippur. So it's not surprising that we would read about it because it happened on Yom Kippur. So, and the second part of this Parsha is another part that we read on Yom Kippur, but we read it in the afternoon. So what's that? So we're going to go to 17, 18. Here it is. And this is part of what we read during Mincha of Yom Kippur. So Acharei Moed, we suddenly reading a lot of things that are part of the Yom Kippur service. And what do we read? It says, V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and Hashem speaks to Moshe saying,
One second.
sorry, someone has a question?
I don't know.
No? Okay. Daber el b'nei Israel v'amata lehem, ani Hashem Elokeichem. Sorry, are you trying to ask me a question? I can't hear you though. I can't hear you. You've gone all over to the... Yeah, you're very garbled. I can't hear. I can't hear. I'm sorry. You're very garbled.
Did we ever figure out why? Didn't we come to figure out what makes it garbled?
Wasn't it her headset or something, or her?
Yeah, sometimes when she's wearing the headset and then we can't hear. So, sorry, if you want to type in something, I'll have to figure out where to read it, but okay. So let's go. Daber el b'nei Israel v'amata lehem, ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am God your God. And here comes the thing. Kama'aseh Eretz Mitzrayim.
It says
Sorry, what? I can't hear you, sweetie.
maybe she could type her question into the chat.
Yeah, type your question into the chat, and I'm going to elect Yakova to say out your question. Okay. Okay. So it says Kama'aseh Eretz Mitzrayim, like the actions, the practices of the people in Mitzrayim, Asher Yishavtim Ba, where you have been living. Don't imitate them. Lo ta'asu, and don't also do kama'aseh Eretz Canaan, and don't do the actions like the people of Eretz Canaan. Asher ani mavi etchem, that I am bringing you to. Don't be and don't practice like the Mitzrim, and don't do like the Canaanim. and I'm bringing you into Canaan. So I don't want you to do the behavior of the Mitzrim, and I don't want you to do the behavior of the Canaan, where I'm bringing you to. Lo ta'asu b'chukosehem. Don't do like their chokim, and don't do that. Lo ta'asu b'chukotechem, lo telechu, and don't do their practices. Okay, so let's see what Rashi says on that. Let's see what Rashi says on that. Here, don't do what they're doing there. So it says here in Rashi. Does somebody want to read the Rashi?
Which one?
Like the practices of Egypt.
This tells us that the deeds of the Egyptians and the Canaanites were more debased than those of all other nations, and the place where the Israelites dwelt was the most debased of all.
Right, so that's very encouraging. So they lived in Goshen, and out of all, and I've never heard this before, but the commentary on the Rashi in my Chumash said that where they lived in Goshen was actually the worst. So that's interesting when
I thought it was the best land,
Paro
right?
says, come live in Goshen, that's very fertile land, but that was a place where the morals, it's Rashi's telling us, were the most debased of all. And don't do what they're doing. And the what it says over here, theaters and stadiums and all of that. Okay, so let's talk about this for a while. Oh, so before we talk about it, let's go back to the verses.
So what is the
And-
difference between stadiums and theaters then and stadiums and theaters
Right.
now?
Mhm.
The Orthodox hot dog stand at Shea Stadium, Met Stadium, City
Right.
Stadium, and the Broadway shows and all that stuff.
Right. So, okay. So, I mean, in those days, I don't know if they were, in Rome, they're not in Rome yet, but, in Rome, in the stadiums, they were throwing their prisoners to the lions.
Right.
But basically, a lot of this is talking about sexual immorality. It's talking about incest. It's talking about homosexuality. It's talking about a lot of that gender stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Bestiality.
and
Yeah.
now
Mhm.
let's see, in fact, what it starts to talk about. So, a person shouldn't come close. It means shouldn't be intimate with their close relatives. Don't uncover their nakedness because I am Hashem. And then you're going to get a big list of every kind of forbidden relationship. Now, if you've been in shul on a afternoon on Yom Kippur and you're looking at the Torah reading, you're trying to fast, you're trying to be holy, you're dressed in your white clothes, you haven't eaten, you're thinking that this is the holiest day of the year, and then you open your machzor, and the Torah reading is going to say all of these things. Don't uncover the nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother. Don't uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. Don't uncover the nakedness of your sister. Don't uncover the nakedness of your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she's born in your house or out. Don't uncover the nakedness of your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, because they are your own nakedness. And regarding the nakedness of your father's wife and a daughter born to your father, she is your sister. Do not uncover her nakedness. Or your father's sister, she's a close relative of your father. Or your mother's sister, because she's a close relative of your mother. Don't uncover the nakedness of your father's brother. Don't approach his wife, she is your aunt. Don't uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law, she's your son's wife. You don't uncover her nakedness. And it goes on and on. Not to uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife, because that's your brother's nakedness. Not to uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, not to take it in marriage her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, to uncover her nakedness. These are close relatives. Not to take a woman and her sister in marriage, making them rivals. Don't approach a woman in her period while she's menstruating. Don't uncover her nakedness then. Don't lie with your neighbor's wife. and don't give any of your offspring in order to pass the child through the fire for the deity of Molech. Okay, that is quite a list. Okay, so
I'm curious about the two people from different marriages marrying, and they have each kids, and they marry each other. That's not the same blood, but it's very common actually.
well, it's not the same blood, and I guess each situation would be brought up with a rabbi, to discuss. But so Rabbi Dov Pinson brings interesting explanation for that. So first of all, the fact that both of these things are brought about, or both of these things are talked about on Yom Kippur, not the avoda of the Kohen Gadol, which is the Ketores and the scapegoats, the two goats, but this thing of the death of Aaron's sons. And he says that they both read on Yom Kippur because both of these things are connected to the idea of boundaries, healthy boundaries. He says that the thing about the sons of Aaron is that they crossed a boundary. The boundary that they crossed when afterwards, when the instructions are given to Aaron, I don't know if we read it, but it says, that a Kohen cannot enter into the Mishkan who's intoxicated, cannot be intoxicated, can only go in on Yom Kippur, another boundary, has to be wearing all the clothes, the right clothes, another boundary, has to be following this instruction and that instruction, another boundary. What Dov Pinson says is that all those relationships that are forbidden, people live in homes together with other members of the extended family. And because of that, they could be very familiar with each other. One reason that these relationships are forbidden, which is very interesting, is that there's unlimited access. Like there's too much access. You got to put boundaries on those interactions because people are close. And he was saying, and he writes that for intimate relationships to work, there need to be boundaries and there needs to be coming together, but also not over familiarity, not over
Intimate.
there needs to be distance for there to be closeness. That if you're growing up in the home with your sister or your brother, there's not sufficient distance to really come together as two separate people. I think I want to try and read it in his words because he said it very in a way he said it very interestingly. So of course, conventionally, a lot of these relationships we don't condone, but we do know that a lot of them unfortunately happen despite the fact that they're not allowed. So he says that the wording is, do not uncover their nakedness because their nakedness is yours. That's how the wording in the pasuk is. Don't uncover their nakedness because the nakedness is yours. At first glance, this verse seems to use a circular logic. Do not uncover their nakedness because they are naked to you. Their nakedness is nakedness to you. Yet on a deeper level of the literal meaning, because suggests that this is the reason, in other words, the reason we are forbidden to have relationships with our close relatives is because their nakedness is ours. They are naked, they are too exposed, they're too revealed, they're too familiar to us. That does not make for healthy, good relationship. And then he's saying also with Hashem, this example of the sons of Aaron, that the intimacy between us and Hashem, that there needs to be boundaries there too, to do what's commanded, but just not to act in a way that's without any boundaries, kind of even in the bedroom of Hashem. Intimacy and expressions of love create familiarity, and sadly, this sometimes comes at the expense of mystery, reverent respect, and boundaries. Sometimes the need for love and expressions of love make people possessive, obsessive, or overwhelmed with no sense of healthy separateness. Love can even devolve into selfishness, no longer about the other at all. So I thought that was really very interesting of healthy boundaries. So we need to interact with our spouse with a respect for their otherness, not to become too familiar in the sense of casual, not to. So I thought that was very interesting. Intimacy paradoxically demands unfamiliarity, distance, and otherness. It requires a certain tension and distance and the overcoming of this distance, all the while forever remaining other, hidden and mysterious to the other. So I thought that was very interesting, the idea of love and boundaries.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, we have a double parsha. And the double parsha is continuing, and then we come into the parsha of Kedoshim. And Kedoshim is that you should be holy. So let's just go to the beginning of here. So here it is. So now we're going to, once we talked about boundaries, we're talking about the holiness of boundaries and boundaried relationships, even with Hashem, to not get carried away and to stick to the rules, so to speak. We come into the second Parsha Kedoshim, and it says, V'yadaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, Daber el kol edat b'nei Israel, speak to all the congregation of the Bnei Israel, v'amata elehem, and say to them, Kedoshim tihiyu, you should be holy, ki kadosh ani, because I am holy, Hashem Elokechem, I am your God, I am holy, and I am your God. And then right away, it says, Ish imo va'aviv tira'u, a man, his mother and his father, he should fear or have awe for. Ve'et shabsosai tishmeru, and my Shabbases you should keep. Ani Hashem Elokechem. This is a very good line for Baal Teshuvos, because on the one hand, you're learning when you're becoming frum that you need to honor your mother and father. On the other hand, it says honor your mother and father, but not if they're telling you not to keep Shabbos. So Ishimo va'aviv tira'u, a man, his mother and his father, he should fear, but Shabbos takes precedent. He should keep Shabbos. By the way, it says a person should fear his mother before it says his father. And if you want to know why it says it that way, Rashi says, because it might be natural for you to fear your father. So the pasuk comes and tells you to make sure you have respect and awe for your mother as well. Okay, so then it's telling you, observe the Shabbos, don't have idols. There's a lot of things that we have to do to show that we want to be holy. We give charity. We leave a part of our land. We leave a part of our land to the gleaners, right? We know that from the story of Ruth. Part of the corners of the field need to be left for the gleaners. And if you have a vineyards, you must let the grapes that fall on the floor for the poor. Don't steal. Don't swear falsely. Don't oppress your fellow. Don't curse a deaf person. Don't put an obstacle in the face of
It
a
won't hear
blind person. Don't commit. What did you say, Linda?
being silly. And
Oh,
it said, don't, what did it say? Don't say something mean to a deaf person. What was,
Yeah.
oh, right,
and I'm thinking, why? They won't hear you.
right. Okay, that's good.
But God will.
Right.
God does, yeah.
Don't be a gossiper. Don't hate your brother in your heart. Rebuke your fellow, but don't embarrass him in public. Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. And then this is the beautiful thing. Lo tikum velo titor et b'nei amecha. Don't take revenge. Don't bear a grudge. Va'hafta l'recha kamocha. Love your fellow as yourself.
All the
Ani
rest is
Hashem.
commentary.
I am God.
Mhm.
Okay? So people say that this is kind of like one of the most important mitzvot of the whole Torah, and it's a very important mitzvah of this week's Parsha, this loving Hashem as yourself. Now, just by the way, I left out, is it in this? Yeah, also there's I can't remember right now if it was in the last week's in the previous parsha, but there's a lot about not eating. I think it was in Acherei not to eat the blood of an animal. A lot about don't eat the blood of the animal because the animal's life force is in the blood, and we never want to eat that life force of that animalistic life force. So if you're going to eat meat, make sure it doesn't have the life force of the animal in it. So let's talk about this this mitzvah v'hafta l'recha kamocha. So there's a lot of beautiful things to say, and going to quote my good friend Chana Bracha, because she has always lots of beautiful things to say. So just to start, so V'ahavta l'recha kamocha, you have to love Hashem as yourself, and we've talked about all of this so many times before. It's not a new idea. We've all learned it many times, but you can't move on. And I really am referencing from Chana Bracha and from Dov Ber Pinson because they're both kind of coming to this mitzvah in a beautiful way, that you can't love another if you haven't kind of bought the thing about self-care and self-love, because it says v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You have to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Not just love your neighbor, but love your neighbor as you love yourself. So what does love yourself mean? Obviously, we don't want it to be this kind of, what's this very inward, narcissistic. Don't want it to be narcissistic love. But if I quote Dov Ber Pinson, he says, what is healthy self-love? So we take care of ourselves. We make sure we eat and we sleep properly. We make sure that we have our sustenance. We make sure that our psychological needs and our spiritual needs are fulfilled. Self-preservation is innate and healthy. So to love another as yourself is to understand what the other needs and to help him get or to help him have his needs met. So there's a little clip on Chabad.org of the Rebbe actually speaking about this, and he said it very beautifully. He said, if you're thirsty and your neighbor is hungry, don't give him water when really he wants bread. And if he's hungry and he wants bread, don't just give him water if you can give him bread. Don't project. Try to see what the other person needs, and the same way that you would provide for your own needs, you're going to try to help that other person get what they need. So that's one level of this. When we think about loving another. And I can't help thinking of the Brené Brown teaching of loving what is. And there's something in common with
Hold it. Loving what is, isn't that Byron Katie?
Oh, sorry, that's Byron Katie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brené Brown is different. She's
Vulnerability
vulnerability
and things like that. Yeah.
yes, Byron Katie. When we can be present to another person's isness, and we can be non-judgmental and receive and see and accept all of their isness, that's loving them in a way, because that's seeing and receiving and being open and being present to everything they are. And then when we're doing that, we can hopefully we can see what it is that they need. And then Dov Pinson stresses, why does it start off and say, Vahafta l'reacha kamocha? So he says also that it's very easy to love the abstract stranger, or to love all of humankind, or to love, people at a distance. The real test of love are the people who right in your neighborhood, who right next door. And he talks about really the circle of love. And he says, honestly, it has to start with yourself, that you tend to your needs and you make sure you have what you need. It's actually interesting. I said to myself, don't share this story, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I had to go to an appointment this morning. And Susan, you even know where I was going, because I was going to Passaic. And somehow my phone died last night. It just stopped working. So my phone doesn't work at all. It just completely died and got frozen. And I thought it's not so serious because I have a GPS in my car. So I got into my car this morning and my GPS wouldn't program. I just couldn't put in the letter. I just couldn't program it. It wouldn't let me spell out the name of the city where I'm going, and I couldn't program it. And I left my phone at home because my phone was dead. And I didn't realize that, I mean, I didn't think of it at the time, but my phone has my driving license and my money because I have little pockets of my phone, little places to put my credit card. And so anyway, I'm driving and my GPS is not working. I don't have my phone with me. I realize I don't have my driving license and I don't have money. And I really had a feeling, and I don't often have this feeling because thank God Hashem takes care of me really, really well. But I didn't have any of my needs met. And it was a very horrible feeling. I keep some money in my car to tip people at Evergreen when they bring my packages to my car, my boxes. So I had about $14. I started running out of gas. I could get $10 of gas.
Oh my God.
But I literally felt like my needs were completely not being met. I couldn't find
Did
the
you
place.
not know you were in Passaic? Did you know how to get
I
back?
was in Passaic, but I didn't take her phone number with me where I was going. It was ridiculous. It was completely stupid.
Can you
And,
get back from Passaic without your maps?
Well, I could get
Google
back
Maps?
because my phone, my GPS in my car, I could press go home.
Oh,
But I
okay.
couldn't plug in the
That's so
address. It
weird.
just
What
wouldn't.
did you do?
I drove around and drove around and drove around and drove around, and I missed my appointment, and I went home and I wanted to cry and I was very upset. And I was trying to think, what is the hara'ah? What am I to learn here? And it's really like some people don't have their needs met. I felt very desperate. I didn't have money. I didn't have my license. I was running out of gas. I couldn't find where I was going. I didn't get my appointment, which I needed. I didn't have my needs met. So this Vahafta l'recha kamocha, we got to start with ourselves. We fulfill what we need. We have food, we have shelter, we meet our needs, and then it overflows to the people in our family. And then hopefully it overflows to our neighbor. And he talks about it as the circle of love, that we have to start close to ourselves and then our spouses and our family members. We can't just abstractly love humanity and be awful to the people around us. We have to be good to the people around us and let it spread out. So Hannah Bracha's adding to this beautiful teaching is that the word ahava, which is the word for love in Hebrew, the gematria of that word is 13. And the gematria of the word echad, which is one, is also 13. And so whenever we think of this word loving another as ourself, comes down to the fact that we need to see how in fact we won with that other. We won. Why? Because this is the famous teaching from Tanya, that we all have the same Father in heaven. We all come from the same source. We all, so to speak, little sparks from the same fire, right? Hashem is our source, and we are separated by our bodies, but our essence is really all rooted in our identity as being manifestations of Hashem in the world. So we have the same Father in heaven. We all, in some way, part of the oneness of creation, and that feeling into that oneness is going to help us to cross the divide of another being separate, but to feel that oneness. And then the 13 is also the 13 midas harachamim, that just like Hashem has all these capacities to have compassion and slow to anger and easy to forgive and everything, that we need to bring those 13 midot harachamim to our bearings with other people. And I'll just end with the fact that on Monday, when some of us were learning Tanya, we were talking about the Benoni who doesn't do any sins. And we even came across the idea that if a person has hurt you or insulted you or bothered you or done something, injurious to you, you're not really supposed to hate him in your heart. You have to. A good Benoni is a person who'll find a way to forgive another person who's injured them in some way. That's really the right thing to do. So how do you do that?
Is it always the right thing to do? It seems like sometimes it's not a sin to not forgive certain people, certain acts. Like, are we supposed to forgive Hamas?
No. That's a whole different thing, because that's
So, I think that Hamas comes under the category of Amalek, so we fully entitled
yes,
to identify them as
hate them
people who have
forever.
no redeeming quality,
nothing.
and we can hate them with great, freedom.
Passion, if we
But I guess it's people who people. I don't want to just say Jewish
human.
people, but I
No,
would
but you
say,
can say
I'd say we can hate sometimes their actions. We can have a
Right.
great question on their actions, but to see past their actions to their essence, which is,
Right.
that is, and then the way that it's phrased in the Parsha is, you do this because it's part of being a holy person, because I am Hashem. That it's not just because I'm being a good person, but this ability to see God in another person is part of our service of Hashem. And maybe last week, we even had in the Hayom Yom, there's a question: what is a higher form of service? Is it to love Hashem, or is it to love his people? And then we answered that we love what Hashem loves, and he loves the people. So we need to love the people. That's actually our highest way of serving Hashem, is to love his people. So it's quite a strong encouragement to seek out the godliness in other people and it starts at home apparently. So we can't be abstract about it and only love the people over there. We have to love the people over here too, starting with ourselves.
The quote that you made about the Parsha from Chana Bracha was from one of her books that she sold, because I am enjoying.
She has this set of 5 little thin books, and they meditations on each. There's like one for Bereshis, one for Shemot, one for Vayikra, one
You didn't
for.
bring those.
She didn't bring them, but you can find them, I think, on Amazon. I don't know if they have all of them,
You
but
want
she
to post
has
it?
a few pages on each parsha,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a meditation. I don't love the meditations, but I love the little. She usually we quite aligned. We pick out the same things we want to talk about, and she usually has like some very good pointers on each parsha, and then she has a meditation on the parsha.
I so enjoyed getting to know her. I'm going to visit her when I'm there.
Good,
Good for
good,
you.
good.
And what's her name from the Shabbaton? Went to learn with her for many weeks from Arizona. Yeah. What's the name of the other woman who was also in conversion, sweet in her 50s? What was her name?
Well, I don't remember, but I know who you're talking about.
I've been trying to look up her number to call her, and I can't find it in my contacts.
Well,
I
I
know.
can try to look at my contacts after the class
Thank you. Thank you. They're such special people. I enjoy them
Yes,
so
converts
much.
are, yeah.
Okay, ladies,
Thank you.
thank you for your
Thank you
time.
so
And
much.
Okay.
Thank you for the Torah.
yeah, as I said, thank you for your time, and you can thank me for mine.
There you go.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget to count the Omer.
Yeah, don't forget to count the Omer. That's right. Last night was 20.
Okay, cool.
Nothing got
best.
posted, so
Great.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
the
That would be,
best.
yeah, that would, thank you.
All the best.
you
Good,
too.
thanks.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.